Hey everybody, it's Gordon Majak here, back with another episode of Timeless Pop, Rock, and Soul. And today we are going back to the 90s once again, back to 1993 specifically, for one of my favorite songs of the entire decade of the 1990s. That's right, one of the best that came out of the 90s in my opinion. And if I think about it for a minute, I might even decide that it's one of my favorite songs of any decade. I like it that much. The funny part about my relationship or my connection with this particular song that we're going to play today is that if you had asked me back there in 1993, about 20 seconds before I ever heard this song for the first time, if you would have asked me, hey, do you think this artist blank blank, I'll show you who here in a second, do you think this artist would ever have a chance of creating one of your favorite songs of this entire decade, or maybe even one of your favorite songs from any decade? I would have looked at you, I would have given you a look, and I would have said, I would have said, are you crazy? There is 0.000 chance that this artist will ever create any song that is in any way, shape, or form one of my favorites. But that is exactly what happened, not once, but twice on this one album. And I'm going to give you one of those songs today. Against all odds, folks, and I'm not talking about Phil Collins. Here is our record cover. And as I said, never in 1 gazillion years did I ever think I would be publicly showing this album cover to someone and telling them how much I like some of these songs. But that's how music is sometimes, right? You just don't know where the muse is going to take it. Believe it or not, folks, from 1993, it is Duran Duran. Yes, you read that right. I said Duran Duran. Hard to believe. And this is an album called The Wedding Album. It is called The Wedding Album because those 4 wedding pictures that you see there on the cover happen to be the original real-life wedding pictures of the parents. Follow me here. The original wedding pictures of the parents of the 4 band members of Duran Duran. Okay? So one of these photos is Simon LeBon's parents. Another one is John Taylor's parents. Another one is Nick Rhodes' parents. And another one is Warren Cuccurullo's parents. Pretty cool little idea, huh? I think. Very clever. Duran Duran, the wedding album. Now, let me tell you what I think about these pretty boys. Okay, let's go back there to the 1980s, early 1980s there, 1982 to be specific, when Duran Duran made their big entrance there and started racking up the hits, and they became a staple of MTV. Of course, they were truly the darlings of MTV. I mean, maybe more so than just about any band there for a while. Made for MTV, as they say. Photogenic bunch of lads and pretty decent on their instruments as well. Not bad musicians, but for any number of reasons, which I don't want to waste too much time going into, Duran Duran was just never my cup of tea back there in the 80s. Yes, I will admit, too, I liked Rio about this much, but quite frankly, I found a lot of their material just annoying as hell, and I really could not put up with Simon LeBon's lead vocals for very long. Well, I was a fan of John Taylor's bass playing. He was quite a bass player, always has been, pretty good bass player there, John Taylor. But as for the rest of their sound just didn't work for me in any way, shape, or form. There were so many other bands. As we've spoken about in previous videos on this channel, there were so many other bands and so many other sounds coming out of the UK and just coming out of the music scene in general back there in the early 80s that I had no time for Duran Duran. Now, I certainly had to use them on my programs because they were a huge artist at the time. Some people were even saying, they're as big as the Beatles. They're bigger than the Beatles. Deep breath, sigh, 1, 2, 3. And so a lot of hype for Duran Duran back there, and they backed it up, I guess you could say, to an extent of putting up some pretty impressive numbers on the charts. And I counted between 1982 there, when they rolled in there with Hungry Like the Wolf and hit it big with Hungry Like the Wolf, from 1982 to 1988, I counted 8 top 10 hits. That's a pretty impressive number there. If you'd done that back in the 70s, if you'd just released one top 10 hit every year for 6 years, 7 years running like that, that would have been a hell of an accomplishment in the 70s. So in the 80s, of course, aided, as I said, by MTV and round-the-clock airplay there. Duran Duran put up some pretty good numbers back then. Let's skip now to the next part of the story. Back there in 1993, one day at AEI Music, and when I was programming music for AEI, I was doing one of my patented timeless pop programs, and I was looking for some good 90s pop music for my program. And as I've told you before, my feelings about the 90s, sometimes it was a struggle to find some good stuff back there in the early 90s. And on this particular day, I went down the hall there to one of my associates' studio, Mr. Mike Brady, and I said, "Hey, Mike, I need some help, man. I am looking for some good 90s pop that I can work into my program, but I don't want anything obnoxious, and I don't want anything that's got like alternative rock overtones to it, because that was such a rage back then, and I don't want any grungy sounds, and I don't want too much overproduction, techno-y crap. I just want some good melodic pop that's got some soul to it. It can have a little bit of rock to it. It can have some soul to it, but just something that's good and melodic and really tastefully done and well done." And Mike B said, "Hey, I got just the thing for you. Check this out." And he went and grabbed this Duran Duran CD, the Wedding album. If you could have seen my face when he said, "Hey, check this out and try this," and he told me a couple songs to listen to, I was just like, "You have got to be kidding me. You're giving me Duran Duran." He said, "Yeah, listen to this song and listen to this song." Okay, so I go in my studio and I pop in the Duran Duran, the Wedding album disc, and I cue up a couple songs called Ordinary World and Come Undone. Oh my God. Are we talking? Who is this band? Who is this artist? This is not any Duran Duran I have ever heard or ever would recognize, although I faintly recognize some of the vibe coming from Simon LeBon's lead vocals. But these two songs absolutely blew my mind. I could not believe, not one, but two incredible songs on this same album, after I certainly would have written Duran Duran off years prior to that. I mean, when they sort of ran out of steam there of making hit records there in the 80s. I would have written them off commercially years before that, not to mention the fact that I was never a fan to begin with. So talk about a dark horse. This is the darkest of dark horses, the longest shot, as far out of left field as any group, any album, any songs could ever be. And when I queued up those two songs that my associate, DJ Mike Brady, recommended to me, I could not believe what I was hearing. It was so incredibly inspired. These are two songs, and I will probably get around to Ordinary World. I know all the other reactors have done that one, but that song is so incredible that I will probably get around to that one later at some point. But today we're doing Come Undone. But when I heard these two songs, I heard the production, the vocals, the arrangements, the lyrics. I was absolutely captivated. I could not believe what I was hearing from this Duran Duran album. And so I looked and checked out, the personnel. Yeah, the same three core guys there. Simon LeBon on lead vocals, Nick Rhodes on keyboards, and the great John Taylor on bass, as I said. They had swapped guitar players at various stages along the way, and they had Warren Cuccurullo on guitar. And joint effort by all four lads on both of those songs. And I just can't tell you how stunned I was listening to that sound. I mean, forget Duran Duran's background and forget my relationship with them. I don't even care who the artist is. Just hearing those sounds come out of the speakers was like an absolute revelation to me. You just completely shattered my brain when it comes to Duran Duran and what is possible and what they were capable of within themselves, but also even in the larger sense. It was an incredible experience to hear these songs because I could see where music was going there in the 90s, and I didn't really care much for some of the directions I was hearing. But it was almost one of those moments where it gave me sort of a new hope and a new faith for artists in general to still do stuff that, like I had told Mike when I described to him what I was looking for. It gave me renewed faith in artists that could do things that could cross over, that a song could simultaneously be pop, rock, and soul, as this record is, and still be so well thought out and well produced and great lyrics and so just done in such an inspired fashion. It inspired me hearing these songs, and I hope if you guys, well, I imagine most of you probably already know this song, but if you dig in here a little bit, boy, it will inspire you as well. Just such exceedingly well done music by Duran Duran. And again, I never in a bajillion years would have ever thought I would have said anything like that. But what do I always say, folks? You go where the music takes you. And when the music is that good, you give up your preconceived notions and you just are honest. And you say, you know what? Other than Rio, I didn't really dig much of what you guys did back there in the 80s. But I got to tell you, tip of the hat, because you are crushing it right now. And that's how I felt. And all these years later, I mean, it's hard to believe this is going to be 30 years since this song came out. I can't even grasp that. Ordinary World and Come Undone, 30 years ago. Oh, my goodness. Well, that just makes it even more impressive, because listen to how good this song sounds even today in 2022. I mean, this is a full 30 years later, folks. This record could come out tomorrow and it would be a top 10 hit all over again, just like it was back there in the 90s. How far did they take this one? Come Undone all the way up to number 7 on the U.S. pop chart there back there in 1993, following up on the heels of Ordinary World that got all the way up to number 3. And boy, did they ever deserve it. And I would have made them both number 1 if it was up to me, because I really doubt if there was anything else better on the charts at this precise moment that those two songs were charting. That's how highly I think of these two records. I can't wait. We will definitely do Ordinary World at some point soon. But right now, we got a hit. This one just is too much. There is the Wedding album. It is Duran Duran, 1993, Come Undone. And apparently Simon LeBon wrote these lyrics for his wife, which just makes me dig it even more. Check this out. folks, I just got to tell you, every time I hear this melody, the way this melody weaves around in the song, and I have to say, even though I was never a big fan of Simon LeBon as a vocalist, I thought he was always working way too hard and trying way too hard on all that older stuff, and he didn't really have a lot of nuance and a lot of subtlety in his vocal approach. It was just full on almost all the time. So to hear him as a mature man and a mature artist and a mature singer weave this vocal melody is absolutely stunning to me. And he's using his voice exactly the way if I had been his producer, I would have always wanted him to use his voice. He's using his voice in an atmospheric way rather than attacking the microphone. And I just... oh my God, and those female vocals. What an unbelievable arrangement. It just blows me away every time. It's just unbelievable the way music works us sometimes, you know. I mean, seriously, this is just such an incredible song. It stuns me every time, and I already know just looking at the title of Ordinary World written on the page there just reminds me of how incredible that one is. The vocal arrangements and the way they produced this record and mixed this record and engineered those vocals of Simon LeBon, it is so freaking inspired. It's just absolutely perfectly what it should have been and what it could have been in its full glory. Just so expertly done. There's got to be some great inspiration behind this. And I'll bet if I dug into it, that's probably what I would find. Just inspired, man. Duran Duran killed me back there in 1993. Heard this in Ordinary World. Are you kidding me? Wow. Certainly the high water mark of their career, and it would have been the high water mark of so many other artists' career, man. I would, as we were listening to this, I was just thinking, man, this is one of those songs that I would love to go to my grave having my name on this song, that I wrote this song or I co-wrote this song. Wow. That would be a pretty proud moment. One of those songs that really makes me wish I'd written it. You know, just too much. Simon LeBon and Nick Rhodes, John Taylor and Warren Cuccurullo, and a consummate career-defining performance, at least on those two songs for sure. And again, this is the record, the Wedding album. Just an amazing performance, an amazing, I don't want to say comeback, because that implies that they were like gone forever and then came back. And that wasn't really the case. They just had a few years of downtime there before they hit it big with this one. But comeback isn't quite the right word, but just blasting off into the stratosphere in terms of their creative expression, that's a good one. That about sums it up. I'll just take both of those right now and stick them in my top 10 for the whole freaking decade. That's how good those two songs were. See you, folks. Cuccurullo.